Which of these two payment processors should you use, Stripe or PayPal? In this video, I'm going to talk about the differences between the two payment processors, which one is going to be cheaper and more affordable for you, and which one is better from a technical standpoint too. I'm Natalie Lucier, founder of Access Ally, which is a WordPress-based solution for online courses, memberships, and communities. I've personally been using both of these platforms, both as a user who is making payments online and as an online course and membership site creator who is selling online courses. So I want to give you a little bit of background on why I'm able to compare both of these options. So I've been creating online courses and selling memberships for over a decade online now. And it's a really cool thing that we're able to just sign up for one of these two tools and immediately start taking payments on your courses and your memberships and your communities. And by the end of this video, you'll know which of these two is the right one for you or if you should be using both. So let's rewind to when I first got started online. So PayPal was pretty much the only game in town. Stripe didn't exist yet. And so of course I used PayPal. And I also ended up getting my own merchant through my bank. And that meant that I had to set up a little bit more complicated systems to take payments. And I ended up really enjoying the PayPal way to go because you could just go ahead, grab some code from the PayPal website and stick it up on your own website to start taking payments. You didn't need a shopping cart, you didn't need anything fancy, and that is still the case today. And in fact, PayPal has added more flexibility and functionality, and I'll get into that a little bit more later. But if you think about the historical side of PayPal, it started off with shipping on eBay a lot. So if you do have physical goods that you need to send out, then maybe PayPal is a better option because you do get all of the cool things that you can do, at least in the US, where you can print out shipping labels and all of that stuff to prepay your postage, and that can be very convenient. Now, when Stripe came on the marketplace, it was really designed for developers and customization of the payment experience. So this is a really cool thing. You don't have to be a developer to use Stripe, but because Stripe has such great developer-focused resources, people like ourselves who develop software can really do cool things with Stripe. So some of the biggest benefits for Stripe, in my opinion, are the cool things you can do with it. So if you want to do a lot of recurring payments, you can do things like pausing a subscription and resuming a subscription. You could give people some credits. You could change the amount of money that somebody owes you. So for example, if you wanted to give them a price break or give them essentially a coupon, you can go ahead and do that directly. You can also change the next due date for a payment, and all of that can be done through something like Access Ally, which manages all of your payments and subscriptions through Stripe. Now, on the other hand, with PayPal, you really have almost zero control once a payment is made through PayPal. And that's because PayPal manages all the payment side of things automatically. And so you can't go in and change a subscription or pause it and resume it, and you really can't do as much. Now, PayPal is great for a small one-time payment, but once you get into subscriptions with PayPal, that's when things get a little hairy and where I do not recommend using PayPal. And that's because when somebody signs up on PayPal for a payment plan or a recurring subscription, they can log into their own PayPal account and cancel it. So that really is hard if you're the one selling your subscription or your membership with a payment plan because you can't control what happens at that point. So if you're using Access Ally, you will be notified and you could have an automation that follows up with this person and says, hey, what gives? Why did you cancel your subscription or your payment plan? Come back over to the site and complete it now. But the thing is, once they do that, you really don't have a whole lot of recourse to get them to complete their payments. So this is a really key point that I think anyone who's doing subscriptions or installment plans need to know before they start using PayPal for these types of payments. Now let's talk about fees for both of these platforms. So in the past, PayPal and Stripe had exactly the same fees, but this has recently changed and PayPal has increased their fees. So for Stripe, you're looking at paying 2.9% plus 30 cents per transaction. So that means if you have a lot of small sales, you'll pay those 30 cents a lot. And if you have a bigger sale, you'll just pay that transaction fee once, but then you'll also pay that 2.9% of the payment. Now for PayPal, depending on your volume and the type of account that you have, you might be looking at paying 2.59% to all the way to 3.49% plus 49 cents transaction fee. So that means that each transaction costs you more, and there's also potentially a higher percentage. So I know it seems like it could be on a lower side, and it might be if you have a certain size business, but for most people, you will actually end up paying more on PayPal. So I highly recommend running the numbers and just seeing how Stripe compares for you. Chances are that Stripe will be cheaper and a better option. Now, speaking of fees, both platforms will keep the fees if somebody refunds. So this is a really big deal, and there are not a lot of platforms that don't do this, unfortunately. But what happens is if somebody pays for something, let's say it's $100, and then they ask for a refund, you've already paid that transaction fee and that percentage, and then you don't pay any additional fees to refund that money back to them, but you also don't get back the fees that you paid in the first place. So that would be that 2.9% or 3-ish%, depending on what it is for PayPal on your account. So that means you are paying out money even if somebody purchases and refunds, unfortunately. Now, since we're talking about money, let's talk about how quickly you can access your funds through these two payment processors. So for Stripe, they have a really good regular schedule where you can auto deposit your income through your bank account every 1 to 2 days. And they are pretty known to be on schedule. So if you depend on this income to pay your contractors or pay employees or anything else like paying rent and things like that, they are very, very dependable. And there have been instances where they could potentially hold your funds if you have a big refund or a big chargeback, but for the most part, Stripe is really good at paying out your funds on a regular basis. Now, PayPal has a similar system where you get your funds immediately and they are deposited into essentially your PayPal bank account, which is your PayPal digital wallet. And the great thing is you can use it immediately. So if you had to purchase something else using PayPal, you could use it right away. Now that's a great advantage. However, if you want to get that money into your bank account, you have to do it manually and you have to initiate a transfer out of PayPal into your bank account, which can take another 1 to 2 days. So it is similar to Stripe, except that if you wanted to automate the disbursement of your funds into your bank account so that every time you got paid on PayPal, it got to your bank account, PayPal charges a 1.5% fee to do that. So you would actually have less revenue to have that automated. So again, in my mind, Stripe is way more of a winner in this case. Now, one big benefit for PayPal is that it is a very well-known brand, and people who have a PayPal account have a little bit more trust when they are purchasing with PayPal. And what that means is, especially in international places where they don't have a credit card or a debit card that is compatible with something like Stripe, then PayPal gives you a huge advantage to tap into markets that you might not be able to get if you only offered Stripe payments. So PayPal gives you that trust factor because people can log into their existing account. They know that they're not giving you any of their credit card details. There are a lot less security issues from that standpoint, and that can be a very big deal depending on where people are purchasing from and what they're used to and how savvy they are on the web. And following up on that point, PayPal usually sides with the customer. So if somebody has a dispute or they want to just say, hey, I didn't get what I wanted in this transaction and I just want a refund, then PayPal tends to side with the customer. And that can also improve the trust factor when it comes to people purchasing on PayPal. But that could also be bad if you have customers who are asking for refunds or asking for chargebacks when they should really just be reaching out to you directly instead. And on the flip side, that trust comes at a cost because you're essentially promoting PayPal on your own website. So if you don't want to have that PayPal logo and that PayPal branding, and you just want to have a very professional experience that does not link to another big brand, then Stripe is way better because it's essentially transparent. People don't know that they're paying on Stripe. They never even need to know that Stripe exists. They just go ahead and put in their details and then get access to your online courses, your coaching, or anything else that you're selling yourself. Now let's talk about multiple currencies. So I think both Stripe and PayPal do a great job in a very international marketplace. So that means that with both Stripe and PayPal, you can take payments in multiple currencies, and that is such a great thing so you can open up your marketplace and sell all over the world. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that when funds come into your PayPal account, they may be transferred into the default currency that you have set up there, or they may stay in their original currency. And at some point, you will have to convert to a different currency, and PayPal will take some fees when they do that conversion for you. So if you would prefer not to to deal with currency stuff, then there's a great way to do multiple currencies if you're using something like Access Ally, which will really help to manage all of these things. Now, when it comes to converting multiple currencies in your Stripe account, what you'll want to do is just take a look at the conversion rates and fees that they charge just to see the difference between Stripe and PayPal, because those are always fluctuating. And sometimes it may be more beneficial to use one or the other based on how many percentage points you would be charged for converting to your local currency. Now, there are more benefits to Stripe when it comes to different types of payments. So in a lot of different locations, people may prefer to choose an Apple Pay, a Google Pay, a Microsoft Pay, or even other local ways of paying. So some people only pay with debit cards or other types of payment processing that is possible using Stripe. Now let's talk about integration with Stripe and PayPal. So like I said, initially with PayPal, you can just take some code, put it on your website and start taking payments. But for most people, that's not really practical, because after somebody purchases, what happens? You have to deliver the goods. And so unless you want to be doing that manually, you'll want to use something like a checkout system, a shopping cart, or something to take those orders. Now for Stripe, you can also use their built-in forms and just add them to your website, and they have come a long way in how beautiful those forms look. But again, what happens after somebody purchases through your Stripe checkout form? You need to deliver something that the person purchased. So this is where a system like Thrivecart, Samcart, or Access Ally really comes in. So obviously I'm biased. I love Access Ally. We've created it for creators and course creators and coaches, and I really want you to go and check it out. So I'm going to tell you some of the main benefits of doing a checkout process or an order forms through Access Ally. So if somebody comes in, they could actually choose between Stripe or PayPal, and they don't have to know it's Stripe. They can just choose to pay by credit card or by PayPal, and then enter their details, click a few buttons, and then boom, their purchase is complete. That's when you are automatically taken into a members area. And then you can have an amazing welcome experience for them, a welcome video, for example. You can have their downloads, schedule their coaching calls, or go ahead and dive into your online courses and memberships and join the community and introduce themselves. So this is where having a really great ordering experience that uses either of these options is amazing. But it doesn't stop there. This is where the benefit of using something like Access Ally or one of the other shopping carts I mentioned, because people need to manage their payments, especially if you have a recurring payment or a membership type site or installment payments. And even if you have a trial, if you want to offer a trial, people can cancel at some point. So it's really important to give them the self-management options that take you out of the day-to-day admin of, logging into PayPal or logging into Stripe and doing all of this stuff. Just let your members manage their own membership and payment information. For example, once they've paid with Stripe, then can come in and update their credit card on file. So if they know that their credit card is expiring, no problem. They can come and update it, and then you won't lose any of those payments. And again, all of the options that I mentioned at the beginning are possible with Stripe. So you can pause a payment, give people a credit on their account. You can change the next date of their payment. You can also give them a discount if you want to, or even increase their pricing. So obviously you have to be very honest and ethical when you're using these features, but this is what it comes down to, the flexibility that Stripe offers that PayPal just does not match in any way, shape, or form. So if you are using PayPal, you can do subscription payments in Access Ally, and you can pause and resume, but that's about it. You cannot do any of the other fancy stuff that I just talked about. And a lot of times it is way better for Stripe to be done if you're using payments or installment plans. Now, there's one thing I haven't talked about, which is how to collect and manage taxes when it comes to Stripe and PayPal. So again, this is something that your shopping cart or your ordering system is really going to do all the heavy lifting with. And what it comes down to is being able to know where the person is purchasing from, so you know which types of taxes you need to apply, and then also being able to remit those taxes at the end of the year to the right authorities. So it's a little bit complicated, and I have a whole other video telling you exactly how to manage your taxes automatically, and this works for both Stripe and PayPal. So if you decide to use both of these platforms or just one of the two, based on what you've learned today, then make sure to go watch that video now. Give this video a like if you got some value out of it, and make sure to subscribe to the channel for more tech tutorials, trainings, and ways to help you scale your online business using all the right tools and all the right strategies.